When you think of ransomware, you probably picture some lone hacker in a dark room, a sort of digital mugging. But that picture, it's completely out of date. What started as a simple, malicious hack has exploded into a full-blown, professional, and frankly, a terrifyingly efficient global industry. So how on earth did we get here, and how does this whole thing even work? Get this. $265 billion. That's not a typo. That's the projected annual cost of damages from ransomware by 2031. This isn't just a tech problem anymore. It's a massive economy, all built on extortion and powered by a business model that is, as you're about to see, shockingly familiar. All right, so here's our game plan. We're going to break down exactly how this criminal enterprise functions. First, we'll get into this whole as-a-service model. Then, we'll take a peek inside the corporate structure of these cybercrime groups. We'll trace how their extortion tactics have evolved, lay out a playbook for how to defend yourself, and finally, we'll talk about what this all means for the future of cyber leverage. Okay, let's dive right in. We have to start with the core concept that changed everything. The idea that crime itself could be packaged, marketed, and sold just like any legitimate software product. And this is it, Ransomware-as-a-Service, or RaaS. Think of it like a subscription service, but for crime. It's a business model running on the dark web where really skilled developers create and maintain incredibly sophisticated ransomware, and then they just lease it out. What this does is, well, it completely demolishes the barrier to entry. You don't have to be some coding genius to launch a crippling attack anymore. You just need to be a customer. But here's the thing. It's not just about renting a malicious tool. When you get involved with RaaS, you're essentially joining an organization, one that mirrors a legit tech company in some pretty wild and surprising ways. I mean, just look at this comparison for a second. On the left, you've got software as a service, SaaS. We all use it. Think Salesforce, Microsoft 365. On the right, RaaS. The structure, the business model, it's identical. Developers create a product and they lease access to it. The only real difference is that one helps legitimate businesses grow and the other helps criminals tear them down. So inside these groups, you've got this really clear division of labor. First, you have the developers. These are the masterminds, the ones who build and constantly update the ransomware itself, and they even create these slick, user-friendly dashboards for their customers. And then you have the affiliates. You can think of them as the sales force, the boots on the ground. They're the ones responsible for the dirty work of actually breaking into networks. And this is what makes the whole thing spin. It's all about the money, right? In the most common setup, the affiliates, the ones taking all the risk, get to keep the vast majority of the ransom payment. We're talking 80, sometimes even 90%. That creates this massive, powerful incentive to be aggressive, to find bigger targets, and to cause more damage. And the level of professionalism here, it's honestly mind-blowing. These aren't just small-time crooks. Many of these groups have 24/7 technical support for their affiliates. They run private forums to share attack techniques, and they even run marketing campaigns to recruit new criminals into their network. This is enterprise-grade crime. Okay, so the business model got scarily professional, but that's not all that's changed. The way these groups actually force a victim to pay up has become progressively more ruthless and a lot more complex. This didn't just happen overnight. Let's walk through it. First, you had what you might call ransomware 1.0. Super simple. They locked your files and you paid for the key to get them back. Then they upped the ante with 2.0, double extortion. Now, before they encrypted anything, they would quietly steal all your most sensitive data and threaten to leak it online. Suddenly, having backups wasn't enough. And today, we're in the era of 3.0, or triple extortion. On top of everything else, they might hit you with a DDoS attack to knock you offline, or even start calling your customers and partners directly to create maximum chaos and pressure. So what makes this latest wave so incredibly dangerous? Well, just look around. Our whole world is basically one giant attack surface now. With remote work, cloud everything, and all those IoT devices, there are just more doors for criminals to knock on. They're getting smarter too, attacking supply chains, hit one company to get to all of its clients. And here's the really scary part. They're not afraid to go after critical infrastructure. We're talking hospitals, pipelines, schools, places where any disruption can have devastating real-world consequences. All right, that's the bad news. It's a huge, sophisticated threat, and it's serious. But, and this is a big but, you are not helpless here. So let's flip this around and talk about how you actually fight back. Look, if you only do one thing, Make it this. The absolute cornerstone of your defense is a rock-solid backup strategy. The gold standard here is called the 3-2-1 rule, and it's pretty simple. Keep 3 copies of your critical data on 2 different types of storage media, with at least one of those copies stored completely off-site and, crucially, offline, where an attacker can't possibly touch it. But with these modern extortion tactics, backups aren't a silver bullet. You need layers, a defense-in-depth strategy. That means things like zero trust, where you assume attackers are already inside and you limit their ability to move around. It means using strong, phishing-resistant multi-factor authentication. It means having modern security tools to detect threats and breaking up your network so a fire in one room doesn't burn down the whole house. And of course, you absolutely have to have a plan for what to do before you get hit. But, after all the fancy tech and millions in security budgets, this whole problem often boils down to one thing: people. A single accidental click on a malicious email can bypass the most expensive defenses in the world. And that's why your employees are both your biggest vulnerability and your single most important line of defense. Consistent, engaging training isn't just a nice to have, it's absolutely non-negotiable. So where does all of this leave us? What's the big takeaway here? Well, the rise of the RaaS economy has forced a fundamental shift in how we have to think about this threat. It's changed the entire game. And that brings us to the absolute core of it, the bottom line. Modern ransomware attacks are not just about locking up your files anymore. The real goal is to find your organization's greatest point of pain. It's to find leverage. Maybe that's threatening to leak customer data, or maybe it's shutting down your factory floor during your busiest season. Whatever it is, they will find it and use it to force you to pay. So I want to leave you with this one question to really think about. If an attacker's #1 goal is to find that unique point of maximum pressure for your organization, do you know what it is? Is it your intellectual property, your operational uptime, your reputation? Because if you don't know the answer to that question, you can bet the criminals are already working hard to figure it out.